I've started this topic sort of, right? I mean, the notion of misfit isn't new by any means, but I've kind of started looking more into this topic. And the reason is, always when you see authors talk about a certain topic, a certain experience, a certain learning that they've experienced, right? Typically, they've been through that themselves. And so, certainly, when I talk about misfits, when I talk about what a misfit is, how I see other people as misfits, certainly I am a misfit myself. And what does that look like, right? So that you understand kind of where I'm coming from. I went to college when I was between 24 and 27, roughly, maybe 23 and 26, right? I did 2 years of law school in another country. I then came to the US, and it took me years to be able to financially go back to school because I had to support myself. And certainly, when I went back to school, there were most of the students were actually younger than me, right? The traditional path, the 18 to 22 path, kind of, who wanted to be whatever they wanted to be. And um, because of that, I was older than others, usually, right? In most of these classes and things like that. And because of that, I felt it was an advantage, definitely an advantage, because I was looking at it from a different perspective. But at the same time, it also was slightly a disadvantage for me because I wasn't fitting in. And at first, I wanted to fit in. At first, every immigrant, every first generation immigrant is trying to fit in, but realistically, I just didn't want to anymore. So, um, I've been a misfit since 2005, roughly, but I've only realized that I was before. I've only realized that I was a misfit probably about a year ago when I started working on my third book, actually second book, but now it's going to be either a third or a second. We'll see how that goes, but that's kind of where I am, and I've only realized that when I started talking about who do I want to talk to in my next book, who do I want to support in my next book, and so that's kind of how this notion of a misfit, of somebody who doesn't fit on a traditional path, and that could be, for me, it was not fitting into a traditional college path. I worked all through college. I didn't live in a dorm. I had to support myself financially because my parents were in another country and couldn't support me. So it was a very different experience, and I'm grateful for that experience because honestly, it has given me 3 years of experience when I graduated from college. So it was definitely, no, I don't have any regrets or anything like that. But at the same time, it's different, and so I often felt like I didn't fit in. Then, I was running my own bookkeeping business for about 5 years while I was going to college. And when I graduated in 2010, 2009, actually, to the end of 2008 to 2009, which, if you know, was the recession, right? So I graduated in the middle of the peak, well, maybe not a peak, but definitely in the middle of a crisis, an economic crisis in the country, where accounting firms were not hiring at all. Hiring freeze all around. And I was like, okay, well, you know what? That's fine. That's how it's supposed to be. I am still learning to accept certain things that are thrown my way, and this was one of those things. I mean, looking back, hindsight is always 2020. Looking back, I didn't accept it as much as I should have, but it's fine. I just kept on taking the CPA exams. I kept on running the bookkeeping business, and then I went and I worked for a small firm for 2.5 years. Because it was a small firm, there was less of an ego drive for me because all of the, those who have huge egos and who do really well in school, which I did, go to a big firm. And at first I was upset that I didn't get a chance to go because it was a hiring freeze. But then I was really happy because when I went to a small firm, when you go into a big accounting firm, you do this one task, but you do it a million times. And that task may be a couple of forms on a tax return, not even a whole tax return, a couple of forms that you specialize in. So you become this one little piece in the conveyor belt operation in an accounting firm. In a small firm, you get your hands on business, audit, consulting, accounting, financials, and everything in between as you work through clients. And you definitely finish tax returns, and you definitely learn how to do that very quickly. So thankfully, I got into a small firm at the end of 2009, and I worked there for 2.5 years. At which point, I got pregnant, got married, and got pregnant, and it was everything was planned. And honestly, I did not want to put my baby that was growing inside of me through the stress of tax season. It's extremely stressful. The year before that, when I was getting married, I was preparing for a wedding in Hawaii, and because of tax season, my eyes started twitching. So I started having health issues because of that. So that really is, a, played a big part of that. And when you quit, when you start your own firm after 2.5 years, you again don't fit in. And when you don't fit in, nobody likes misfit and stuff. So people get upset. And it took me some time to realize that, to own that, to do what works for me, not for them. To not try to create a square hole, but to not care about that hole, to fit into that hole at all, no matter what size it is or shape. So I started building my own firm. I built my own firm. I'm about 12 years into it. I love every minute of it. I've learned a lot. I've started doing things differently. Most accounting firms work with 5, 6, 7, 900 clients. We work with less than 100, because to me, it's much more important to support someone, their business, their family, their unit through that journey of life. Lower tax, more money, bigger business, or maybe not bigger, better business, and so on. To me, it's that important. I invest in my clients. I invest in my clients by investing in my own education and growth. And I keep learning forever. So nobody likes a show off, right? And so nobody likes a misfit, even though I try not to show off. But, when I, right before I was graduating, I actually, when I just picked accounting as my major, there was a rule that was changing in 2009. That rule was that now, out of 120 credits and 2 years of experience, you needed to have 150 credits and 1 year of experience. And at first, I accepted the fate that I'm not going to finish in time. I actually ended up finishing a semester earlier, but that's a different conversation. But, and I've transferred credits. And of course, the college didn't give me full transfer of the credits that I've taken in law school in another country. And so I decided, you know what, I'm just going to give it a shot. I would love the reduction in experience just to get my license faster. I wanted to be a licensed CPA, and I worked hard for it, and I wanted to get it faster. So I petitioned the state Board of Education, Department of Education, and I've given them made a case for giving me the break for cutting my experience requirement by 1 year, because of the credits that I wasn't given a credit for from my foreign law school. So they've given me 1 credit for each class that I took, and I was able to get my degree, my license, 1 year sooner. And that was, to me, a misfit move. Before that, I've always followed the rules. Before that, I mean, outside of, not fitting in college and stuff, but I've generally followed the rules. Here, I worked not hard, but smart. I also worked hard, but also smart to get to where I need to be faster. And I continue working on that. I continue being a misfit, but now I don't apologize for it. Now I don't believe in double standards, and I call people out on double standards, because to me, not fitting in means that you are not a hypocrite, means that you practice what you preach, and do as I say, not as I do, doesn't apply to you or to me and stuff. So I definitely am a misfit myself, and I am drawn to other people who are misfits, because I just was reading a book recently called Rebel Ideas, And the author there talks about how we are naturally drawn to people who think like us. What I think misfits are drawn to is not necessarily people like themselves, but people who think like them differently. Meaning, I know that I think differently than others, than many others. And so I'm attracted to people who also think differently, who don't think like I think, but who think differently. And that's a misfit. So we'll continue talking about misfits because I am one and I know there's a lot of them. There are creatives, entrepreneurs, there are moms who choose a different path for themselves as a parent. There are many people who don't necessarily fit into any of those categories who want to do things differently. And I'm going to support you by providing your content with a content that would help you own, accept, and own who you are and stop looking for a different shape hole or whatever to fit in your square peg.